Noid is back! This probably means nothing to viewers younger than, say, 20, but for some reason, this Domino's pizza mascot from the 1980s left a huge impression on people. So much so that writers for the intervening years were just inserting him into scenes, like it was the funniest thing in the world.
The Noid.
That's it!
Like, I'm old enough to remember the Noid? Which usually means that it was just my responsibility to explain the joke to my younger brother and any buddy of his that happened to be there. And here's the joke. The Noid is a manic little guy who hates high-quality, freshly baked pizza, but for some reason has decided to go after Domino's anyway. The typical Noid commercial involves the Noid destroying brand X pizza with some sort of crazy gadget, or in one case, dark eldritch magic, and then failing to sabotage Domino's brand pizza. If he had only looked inside, he would have found the one weakness. Where do these go, by the way? I hardly ever see them anymore. On the other hand, I don't usually have a reason to buy a pizza the size of a pinup poster anymore.
If you've ever gotten cold pizza, a squashed pizza, or pizza that just wasn't right, the Noid did it.
What exactly is the Noid? Well, since he has a compulsion for destruction, I guess he's some sort of subspecies of gremlin. But he kind of just looks like a guy in rabbit pajamas, so maybe an elf? For sure he's some type of fairy folk, which means that Hellboy will eventually have to deal with him. The Noid was brought to life by Will Vinton Studios, who was the toast of the town when it came to advertising in the 1980s because of his instant recognizable style. A true sign of quality.
Will Vinton has been bringing clay to life for more than 15 years.
I can see why these commercials left such a big impression on people. They're fun and imaginative, and I'm sure Will probably appreciated the work, so he could fund his children's movie about Satan.
Fame is a vapor, the only earthly certainty.
The great taste of Domino's pizza. So yeah, it's safe to say that the Noid became a very big fixture of 1980s pop culture, with like a ton of merchandise related to the character. And of course, a video game. I think this might be the reason people remember the Noid so fondly. I mean, brand tie-in video games were not unheard of, but this one's actually pretty good. It's a decent platformer with tons of levels, and even though they're really short, a variety of gameplay styles and hazards that keep it interesting. And a really unique boss mechanic that ties into not only the command of strategy, but how well you played in those platforming levels. It's a pretty unique formula, and was actually how I was introduced to the Noid. So for a good long while, I thought the Noid was just like his own character who shilled for pizza. It'd be like if you saw the commercials first, and then later thought, oh, they made a show about the Butterfingers kid. That doesn't happen. Or does it? No, the reason this game seems so flushed out is because it's actually just a reskin of a Famicom game. Capcom's Kama no Ninja Hanamaru, or Masked Ninja Hanamaru. In the game, you play as a masked ninja who investigates disappearances on a theme park island, using the ninja's most traditional weapon, a robotic falcon. I like the Noid's weapon of choice better, and for some reason, whenever I think of yo-yos, I think of ninjas anyway. The original game also features unique sprites for all the bosses, instead of just palette swaps of the Noid. And the boss fights also make a little bit more sense. The mechanics are the same, but instead of filling up a pizza meter, it's hit points that are depleted by wagering different types of ninjutsu.
The last time this happened, he destroyed a whole kitchen.
Like, the levels are not too complicated. You're more likely to fall than actually get hit by an enemy. If you want a little bit more of a challenge, there is a PC game released an year earlier. It's a hallway crawler where you play as a Domino's deliverer, desperately trying to avoid the Noid on your route, doing sick-ass somersaults and forward flips. You are clearly overqualified for the minimum wage job, but you will not be receiving a tip. It doesn't matter if the Noid goes high or low, but you never know where a trap will be. It's just okay, but it's definitely more on brand, with the Noid actually trying to destroy the pizza instead of eating it. Wait, why is he eating the pizza if he hates it so much? It's weird. Unlike your usual brand mascot, the Noid doesn't seem to actually want the product in question. You know, like the Trix Rabbit or the Hamburglar. He also doesn't want to sabotage a competing product so he can replace it with his own. No, he simply has a compulsion to destroy pizza, which is kind of an ingenious way of involving every other brand of pizza without actually claiming that yours is superior. No, Domino's just has better security. Sad part is there are commercials where he's just trying to get through his day, going to the movies, watching some TV, reading a newspaper, and yet even a mention of Domino's pizza is enough to trigger an episode. There's not even an actual pizza around for him to destroy. It's a little weird that Domino's built their brand recognition around a clearly disturbed individual, right? A lot of you see where I'm going with this, so I guess it's about time we discussed the incident. In January of 1989, Kenneth Lamar Noid walked into a Domino's Pizza in Georgia and held 2 employees at gunpoint, demanding to speak to the corporate HQ because they had stolen his name. Luckily, no one got hurt during the 6-hour standoff. The 2 employees were able to escape after they made Kenneth a pizza when he got hungry. Soon after, he gave himself up to the police. Now, I can't find any actual diagnosis in the newspaper clippings I've read, but I did learn that Kenneth had spent the previous months in and out of mental care. So it was no surprise that his trial resulted in the charges being dropped and him being committed to an institution for the foreseeable future. Unfortunately, that ended when he took his life in 1995. The Noid campaign ended soon after the hostage situation, and although Domino's Corporation denies that the incident had anything to do with it, like they do, I think that the writing was pretty much on the wall. Domino's wanted to distance themselves from the already charged subject of mental health, especially when the later half of the campaign shifted from the Noid being this wacky antagonist to the pizza chain psychologically aggravating the character with glee.
A special feature's coming your way from Domino's Pizza to ruin the Noid's day.
And so with the release of Yo Noid in 1990, the Noid then quietly went away. But now it's 2021, and who gives a shit, baby? We got mass shootings every day. A 2-person hostage situation is not even a fucking blimp. Corporations will use a 500,000 body count as the backdrop for their bloody gum commercials. 594,000 people dead. That's the body count of a war, which is not really different how we treat regular wars. This Snickers commercial premiered in 2020, before we had the vaccine.
I thought we were doing a Zoom thing.
The Noid incident is just a mote in the eye compared to what corporations will try to ignore today. The most shocking thing is that a black man wasn't immediately gunned down in Georgia. And you're probably saying, hey man, aren't you overreacting a little bit to all this Noid stuff? I mean, it's not like they're invoking the epidemic. Yeah, you know, you think that.
I can't believe they put this in the press release. Maybe it was the chaos of 2020 that gave the Noid the confidence to return. Maybe are you telling me the Noid was watching TV and he saw the global pandemic claiming millions of lives and was like, I gotta stop pizza delivery. I'm back, baby.
Time.
And by the way, I was actually intrigued when someone told me that the Noid was back. And then I saw the damn pizza robots.
That's why we're testing driverless delivery powered by Neuro, and it's got someone back to their old habits.
Right in the middle of a huge push for fair compensation, after a year and a half of being called essential, Domino's wants to assure you that you don't even have to look at another ungrateful, diseased human. By the way, you'll never see one of these things. Not because they will eventually murder a toddler, but because no franchisee wants to shill for a McDonald's ice cream machine on wheels. Oh, you didn't know that? Yeah, McDonald's machines have special parts in them so that only one company is allowed to fix them. The money they extort from their branches is more than they would make if they just sold the damn ice cream. And they try to sweep all this under the rug with nostalgia. And not just for nostalgia for the 80s, for like 2 years ago when the Sonic trailer premiered. Back in the 1980s, it was fun to see this little cartoon guy on TV and spend a few hours on the NES, and then order from Pizza Hut anyway. But times have changed. Now in the back of my head, I'm just reminded of all the problems we have with gun violence and physical and mental health and the wage inequality and how all of this pretty much stems from the age of excess itself. It's unavoidable. By the way, I don't buy corporate brand pizza anymore. I make my own. With the Ninja Turtles Pizza Cookbook. You know it's good because it's the designs that I grew up with.